was the piece that was missing, for me. I had done a little bit of musical theater. I had done a little bit of, jazz and, and all that stuff, tap and all of that. But I didn't have a sound background in African. And there was a wonderful woman teaching at Temple University, and she became my mentor in African dance. And so that's the Umfundalai technique. It is a contemporary African diasporan dance technique. She created it in 1970.
And what was her name?
Her name is Dr Kariamu Welsh. I met her in 1986 when I went to Temple University, and she became an ancestor on October 20 of last year. So I continue to teach her Umfundalai technique, and there are many young people out here who are studying Umfundalai. In fact, when we were in South Africa on the AIDS pilgrimage, the young man who walked with us, Sonwabo, yeah, he introduced me to a friend of his who taught at, I think he taught at the University of Cape Town.
At UCT?
And he was so excited when we met. He said, I just came back from the States studying with Kariamu. He was so excited.
Wow.
And so was I, because, it meant that, Umfundalai was making its way around the world. And so, yeah. But once I left university teaching and went on that Middle Passage pilgrimage, it changed everything in my life. I was then teaching at Temple University on a dean's appointment to teach some of Kariamu's courses, because she had fallen and broken her foot. And I had just left Penn State because I wanted to find a way to get to Africa. And so my co-mother, my daughter's mother-in-law, called one day. It was my birthday. They called to greet me for my birthday. And so after I talked to my daughter, Della got on the phone and she said, so what are you doing, girl? I said, I'm teaching at Temple University this year, subbing for one of my colleagues. She's really my mentor, but we're colleagues now. And I said, but at the end of this semester, I'm going to find an opportunity for Tim and me to go to Africa. I'd always wanted to live and work in Africa, ever since I was 15 years old. And she said, that's right, I almost forgot. I got something for you. Something came across my desk the other day, and I said, this sounds just like Tim and Myrna. And she said, I don't have the material right now because everything in her home was packed, because she was moving to Atlanta to be closer to our children. She said, but when I get in the house, I will send this to you. That was on my birthday, April 11th, 1998. And I said, okay. So on April the 30th, 1998, I got this large envelope from her. And I was like, I bet you this is what she was talking about. Ripped it open and pulled out this beautiful tri-fold 8.5 by 11 brochure. It said, the Interfaith Pilgrimage of the Middle Passage. I'm like, what is this? Now, I'm teaching in an African American Studies department, have been doing so for the last, I don't know how many years, on everybody's mailing list. I heard nothing about this Middle Passage pilgrimage. I was instantly intrigued. And we started, calling up Massachusetts, calling the number. We were always getting this message. We said, no, we want to talk to a person. Call the next day. So finally, I said, well, I think we need to try something else, because it doesn't seem like anybody's at that phone. And then we sort of found an email address or something that was on it. And we sent the email. We got an answer instantly. And it was Elaine.
I was going to do it.
Elaine wrote us back.
Elaine Kinsey?
Oh, yeah.
She was our home-based
liaison.
Okay, she also practices Buddhism, but not at the pagoda.
That's how I know Claire.
Oh, Okay.
She introduced me
Oh,
to Claire and Katashoni.
Yeah.
Now the connections
So
are being made.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So we, once we got that contact, we found out that you all were having this orientation at the end of the month, because now it's May, and I'm getting really nervous because I hadn't heard anything for for a week or so. So we said, well, we'll just go up to Amherst and do this orientation and see, what this is. Because for me, it had Middle Passage in it. It meant I was going to be able to get, that's right, I was going to be able to get to Africa, probably on the water, much like my ancestors had come over. And I had always wanted to do that as well. So we decided that we were going to do the pilgrimage, and that was that. No more academia for me. Yeah, it opened all kinds of doors. And after the Middle Passage pilgrimage, my then husband and I initiated a pilgrimage of our own called the International African AIDS Pilgrimage, a walk for global healing. We were looking at what is this that's being called the pandemic of HIV and AIDS in sub-Saharan Africa, and what do people know about it? How is it manifesting in communities, and what strategies are being used? What's working, what's not working? And I think most importantly for me, it was how do our distant cousins from the continent of Africa want those of us from the international community to respond? And so we went out in the field. We learned from the healthcare workers who did the HIV and AIDS centers and VCT centers and all of that, and then we took that information on the walk with us to the communities, and we shared it with with the folks that we met along the way. But had we not done the interfaith pilgrimage of the Middle Passage, we would have never been in the position to take on this kind of a thing. So yeah, it changed my life tremendously.
And it was just she and her husband at the time. Yeah. Yeah, and they called themselves the Spirit Walkers.
Oh, yeah.
You remember?
I do.
You even had little cards, little business cards made up.
And
Spirit
wait,
Walkers.
it was just the two of you walking? Or
Yeah, I mean, essentially, we would pick up folks along the way, just like we did on the Middle Passage pilgrimage. People would see us walking, and and they'd come in to find out what we were doing. And then some folks would walk with us, and people that we knew from Cape Town would walk with us. And so we did, we had this idea that we were going to do Southern Africa, and then somehow or other we were going to cross over and we were going to do West Africa. I don't know.
It was going to be in the shape of the AIDS ribbon.
wow.
Yes,
Remember?
yes. And then we would come back and end in South Africa again. As it turned out, we did South Africa, Swaziland, and some parts of Mozambique. We never went over that side, because once we got to Swaziland, we left this little village really called Gege, and all roads to Gege are dirt. But we left there and we went to Bibani, the capital city of Swaziland, and we were working with some Sunday school teachers from the Anglican Church. And so we were taking a break for lunch. The receptionist came and said, "Mom, your call." I'm like, my call? Your call. I'm thinking, I didn't make a call. And nobody knows where I am, so, couldn't be anybody calling me. I said, are you sure it's for me? And she said, they said the Americans. I was like, okay. We're the only Americans in the place. It was Maggie Janjis from Gege. Sissy, the people want you back. I'm like,
They wouldn't let them leave.
the people want you back. I'm like, Maggie, this is a pilgrimage. There's no going back. You just keep going forward and forward and forward until you finish the thing. But Katashoni, when he heard about our pilgrimage, he told him, he thought it was a wonderful endeavor. And he had one question, and his question was, how do you intend to make a lasting impression on the people? And Tim held that question with him the entire time. And when Magi Janjis called to say the people want you back, that for him was the answer to Katashoni's question. You go back and you spend that time with the people, and you build it up. And so we left Babani and we went back to Gege. We ended up living in Gege, Swaziland for 1.5 years, doing the work of the AIDS pilgrimage there, and attempting to build an HIV VCT center in Gege. Yeah. All from, our experience on the interfaith pilgrimage of the Middle Passage. Crossing the waters, changing the air, right? Woo. Then created a play from the writings that pilgrims had submitted for our commemorative book on the Middle Passage pilgrimage.
And the book never transpired, but a play did.
Oh, okay.
Because we put out a call to the participants, if they had any poetry or any reflections, or maybe pages from their journal that we could use to put in the book. And so all this stuff was coming through the email and through snail mail. And as I'm reading this stuff, I'm like, my director's hat came on. And I was like, it's good material for a nice coffee table book with photos but this is a play.
Yeah.
We had some really, really brilliant people on the pilgrimage, and who were really good writers, and wrote some of the most rich, beautiful stuff about their experiences, So when you're reading something about the Natchez warrior and how the spirit entered this woman's body on the pilgrimage, and she talks about her experience of this vision that she saw, I want to see that on the stage or on film, And so I was like, uh-oh, this is a scene. And so I wrote it, I adapted it for the stage. Then another story came in about Ouida, Richard Wright's beautiful piece. And we created a piece around that. So many stories. And then I would talk to Amai, and I was like, oh no, I see dance. And she was like, me too. And so we kind of collaborated on some of the scenes together, and we put together this piece. And at the time it was called
Memories, Spiritual Memories.
And it became a 2-woman show. And we were like, that's how we're getting our tickets to get back to Cape Town. Because we had already moved to South Africa, and we came home for a holiday or something to visit family. We had no money to get back. So I was like, okay, I really want to see this as a full-blown, with a full cast.
Right.
But right now, it's me and you, sister.
That's right.
Let's take it on the road. And so what we did was we took it to places that we had been on the pilgrimage.
Wow.
So we went down the eastern seaboard of the U.S. and places where we had really good contacts or made really good connections with people, and we would call them and say, hey, we have a play, and I know you want to know, what happened, some of the stories. So we have a beautiful piece.
Yeah.
And if you can raise some money or sell tickets or whatever, we would love to come. And we had a slideshow. And so we would show slides, and then we would do the play. And we made, in 3 weeks, we made about $10,000.
$10,000.
And we were able to get our plane tickets and have a little extra change in our pocket to live off of. And we flew back we laughed all the way on the plane. I remember we got on the plane, and we were like, oh my God, we really did this.
We did this? Oh,
And we had a good
it
chuckle.
was
And drank
something.
good South African wine on the plane. I was like, oh, can I have another Cabernet? Yeah, that was amazing. But my friend Judy Abalali renamed the play, and she says, "Ing, she says, the pilgrimage, you changed the air.
Yeah.
You walked in your presence, all of you people, and the spirit that you carried with you on that pilgrimage, you changed the air. You changed people's lives. People met you, they housed you, they fed you, they communed with you, they fellowshipped with you when you came to their communities. You changed them. Crossing the waters, changing the air."
Yeah.
So that's what we.
Nice.
So that's the
what we
title
called it.
now. So one of the things we want to do for this big 25th anniversary legacy project is to make a film of the play. Now we want to make a movie and add more stories to it, and maybe film some of it on location, Yvette. I see Yvette, our fabulous archivist, the wheels are turning right now in her head. But why not, you know? I mean, there's a documentary, there's 2 documentaries about the pilgrimage, but this will be an artistic piece,
Yes.
okay? It's going to tell these amazing spiritual stories that have dance and music and poetry, you know, of these experiences.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Crossing the waters, changing the
Changing the
air.
air.
Yeah.
That's why the 25th anniversary happens in Ouida, because
And Sonji has to
Ouida
be one of
changed
the actors
Yeah.
in the piece.
Totally.
oh,
Because this woman,
Yes.
right?
she said,
You know.
Absolutely.
No, Sonji is an actor,
Yes, absolutely.
and she's brilliant.
Performance artist.
Yeah. So
it's all right with me.
Would be my honor. I want to go back to Rita.
Oh, yes.
yeah,
Your roots.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's the perfect place for the anniversary to
Yes.
be. You
We
know.
were so happy that night. We were up till like 1:30 in the morning.
This was what, Wednesday night?
Yeah,
or Thursday
just a
night?
couple of nights ago.
It's very
Figuring out, what we were going to do with
Yeah.
this.
Because she came in my room to say goodnight. And then she sat on the bed and we started talking. And I was, you know what? Where are we going to do the anniversary? Where should it be? You know, that reunion. We both looked at each other and
We
That's so funny.
it's got to be in Africa. It's got to be on
It's
the
got to be
continent,
on the
and it's
continent.
got to be in Ouida. It's a very important place.
Wow.
And 2 years from now is going to be a very critical moment in terms of just shifts in this country, too. I mean, it's all the timing of it. It's amazing, yeah.
So let's hear from Susan Theberge and why she's accepted role of being on this board. Why she said yes. Because we didn't really know each other.
Yeah.
I know you're very close to Sonji, and Sonji talked so beautifully about you. And I says, why don't you ask, you think Susan would want to be on the board? You ask her.
I'm going to ask you.
You know? Because we've seen each other at
right.
events and things like
Right.
that, but I don't think we've ever really sat and had a conversation,
Yeah.
until
Right.
today. You know?
Right. Wow. I don't know, where should I start even? Because life is so connected. Okay, short snippets. Well, when I was 18 years old, and, all hell was breaking loose in this country then, my consciousness got awakened, and that was, from that moment on, I was just like this, we need a profound revolution in this country. We're destroying the world. And, the Vietnam War was raging, and, civil rights you know, the beginning, and it was just it was so few initials. It was probably the LB. It was probably just the gay lesbian movement then. It was just like a long time ago, but that was radical enough. But you know, I just saw all of a sudden when the veil dropped away from my eyes, I just saw things so clearly, and it was actually a very terrifying moment. Like everything that I ever learned or was taught is completely upside down and wrong. And so once you're on that journey, there's no turning back. And so when I left college, we moved to Dorchester and start in a collective house and started organizing. And then I got involved in the revolutionary movements. They were like international revolutionary movements that were like all over the country. It probably was a small segment, but there were a lot of people, and everybody disagreed with each other about what was the right way to move. But so I went, you know, really deep into, you know, community and workplace, factory organizing. I had met Rene by then, and he worked in a rubber factory, and I worked in literally a sweatshop for a while, and organized a union there. I got fired, and the NLRB, I don't know why, but the National Labor Relations Board at that point was like, they had some teeth, and they took the case up, and so that was good. But then I ended up working at Boston City Hospital, and just, you know, we all got whatever jobs we could. And there was a strike of city workers, and it was a hotbed of leftist organizing there. And I had a very profound, shocking moment of looking around the room. It was the night before the strike, and I was 8 months pregnant with my son. I think it was 8 months. Yeah, I think it was November. He was born in December, and it was an illegal strike, and I was on a negotiating committee. It was like very tense time. But I looked around the room, and I looked at how everybody was just kind of jockeying for power, and I had this awakening that was like, you know, if we had state power starting at 6 o'clock in the morning, we would just repeat every single thing everything that's not working. And it really came down to the abuse of power, white supremacy and the genders, but it was really the abuse of power, and coming out of that, the sectarianism and lack of solidarity, and so again, I saw something so clearly, and I was like, okay, what do I do now? And I certainly didn't lose my consciousness, but I had this other layer, which was, well, this question that came to me is like, what's the connection between working on the personal level to heal ourselves and doing this